Hello, everybody, and welcome to Libromancy, a podcast about the magic of books. I'm Josh, and today I'm going to be talking about One Fell Sweep, the third book in the Innkeeper Chronicles by Ilona Andrews. So let's brush into the magic of books. So again, this is the third book in the series. If you've been following along, you know that I am really enjoying them. They are a ton of fun. They are great urban fantasy, in my opinion. They have, for me, the perfect amount of romance to action to non-action, with the perfect kind of blend of how much is familiar and how much is unfamiliar. Now, in this book, every book so far has been a little bit bigger. I think the first was like 225 pages, and then the second was like 237, and this one's like 257. So we're not really getting like a huge increase in the amount of story we're getting, but they are growing in size a little bit, and that brings a smile to my face. So I felt like this book was a little bit higher stakes than the last books. And yes, I know that the whole time, like, her life's on the line in those other books, but when we get into the spoilers, we'll see exactly why I think that. I thought this book was a little bit faster paced, and it never really let up on the action. Once you kind of got into it, we were into it until the very end. And there were a couple things that I thought, okay, at least in the beginning, I was like, this is what the book's going to be about. And this is what the book's going to be about. Okay, this is what the book will be about. And, eventually I was right, and that was what the majority of the book was spent on. But I like that. It kind of kept it interesting and unique. So, again, this book, just like the others, was published on their website, because Ilona Andrews is a pseudonym of a husband and wife couple that write together. So it was published on their website, chapter at a time, chapter by chapter. I don't know how long is in between each reveal, so I'm hesitant to say week by week or month by month, but that's how the story was put together originally, and then later condensed and pulled into a book. And as far as the website goes, I just checked everything today, and it appears that the series is still ongoing. I don't know if they have anything up online right now, like the fifth book in their chapter by chapter segments, but eventually I think we will see another one there. Alright, so let's just kind of get into the spoiler section. So what is One Fell Sweep about? Well, obviously it's going to be about Dina, and Dina, after rescuing her sister, which we didn't know anything about unless I totally blanked on the fact that she has a sister, she accepts a hiru, a species that is apparently super revolting and like smells really bad and ugly, that is super hunted by a race called the Draziri, where they believe that hunting this creature will grant them the afterlife they desire, and so they've been hunted near to extinction. And at first she's hesitant to accept the hiru, but we all know that she does, of course. So let's talk. I thought that the inclusion of the new species, even in this book, the third book, was still just as smooth and, easy to going as it was in the first book and in the second book. Obviously, the first book, she's just introducing vampires and werewolves, some people, races that we are very familiar with. And then every book after that, she introduces a new one, but it's played as easy and simple, and we get to know them and understand them. And I liked this one that we got to meet the hiru and the Draziri. Now, the hiru are in these clanky, like, metallic suits, and they're bulky, and they just they have this horrible smell around them, and they're loud and they're slow. But, as we talk with them, they're very nice. They just are very like, you don't have to keep inviting me to everything. I know that I push people away because, their biology is such that it has to have that suit or a very specific type of environment. Otherwise, they can't survive. And so the suit kind of replicates it internally for them. And so they are, they're there, but they know that they are dangerous because anyone who houses them can get targeted by the Draziri. Now, the Draziri are a group of people, very pale-skinned. They live on a planet next to where the hero used to live before they utterly destroyed that planet. And they hunt a hero that's part of their religion that if you kill a Hiru, then you and your whole clan or flock are granted passage into the afterlife, which is pretty insane. So it was a very good book, very easily introduced these new characters and brought them in. Let's start, though, near the beginning of the book. Sorry, let's skip ahead, let's come back. Dina and Sean have gone on a couple dates, or a date, and this book takes place very soon after the second book, whereas between the first and second book was a time period of at least 6 months. Now we are talking about less than a week. So Dina gets a message from her sister Maud, and she immediately kind of drops everything and runs to help her sister. She gets Arlen to help her. They go and rescue Maud and Maud's daughter Helen from kind of a crappy backwater vampire world, and they go to the bar. They get in a fight. They rescue her. She pretty much rescues herself as well, though. She's very competent, but she had no way to get off world or anything, and that's why she called for her. And we learned that Maud had been married to another vampire named Melazard, and this one, it's funny, it's spelled like me lizard, and I just thought that was funny as I kept reading it. I'm like, oh, it's me lizard. He's the lizard man. He's not really a lizard man, obviously he's a vampire, but he's a very sketchy vampire who was later killed. And I knew that when Maud joined, that she would fall for Arlen, and that Arlen would fall for her. And I'm glad, because that means that my Dina and Sean ship can progress smoothly, and of course it does. Dina and Sean get together near the end of the book, very end / middle. It's there's a couple spots where they agree to each other that they want to be together. So I like that. I really like that. After that, they are at their house. They're kind of living and growing together, and then the Hiru shows up and says that he is assembling, or the Hiru are assembling the Archivarius, which is 5 beings. They're one being split into 5 bodies or 6 bodies, and they basically wander the universe and the galaxy, learning information and finding things out, and then coming together and sharing all that knowledge, and then splitting apart again. And the Hiru are going to be able to ask a question. But not only the Hiru, they offer Dina that she can ask one of the 2 questions they get, because the price they're paying is so high, because it's a worlds beyond measure kind of a price, and so we don't know exactly what they're paying, but it's worth it. So they have to protect the Hiru in their base, while also going out and collecting the Archivarius, the various pieces that are coming, and then the Archivarius has to be stored in an argon tank, because they're more of an energy being than a physical being, which I just thought was super cool. The way that works and plays out, where they have to fight and rescue and defend all at the same time. Very interesting and exciting. One of the times when they're going out, they fight against a corrupted innkeeper. Now, this was cool. What corrupted him? I don't know. How? Again, I don't know. But it was pretty crazy. Dina is able to beat him, along with some help from Wilmos the werewolf, who comes in, kind of distracts him with some bullets at the proper time, and Dina's able to stop him. Then they bring him into Gertrude Hunt, the inn, and I thought it was so funny because Dina's near dead and she's passed out and basically begging and crying for Sean not to leave the body and not to, leave things. And she brings the corruption, and they're like, yeah, the Gertrude wouldn't even let the body in the house unless we sealed it in plastic. And she's like, oh, okay, so you got a big Tupperware, a Rubbermaid kind of thing, and you put it in that. And no, it was a big, sheets of plastic that have been molded and solidified into one giant piece of plastic. You're over, it's very thick. And then it sealed it in resin, again, on top of that plastic. So the inn knows what's up and is like, no, this is very bad. So it was very interesting to see the corruption. She kind of tries to investigate it a little bit. She finds out that it's actually a former innkeeper that she knew that has been taken over by this corruption, this darkness, and has to fight it off. And it's very kind of scary and intense scene. Officer Marais is back. He, still that I think there's something wrong, and I'm gonna just hound you until I figure it out. And I just am tired of him being in here, because he doesn't add a lot but tension. He just, every time he comes, are they gonna get found out? Well, this time, yes, they are found out, because the Draziri attack him and attack the inn, and they have to show him. And then after he kind of joins up with them for a little bit, they send him on his way. Sean goes with him, kind of tells him all about the accords and the treaties. And then later on, Officer Maurice is, quoting them at an alien. And now he's kind of on their side, but I'm glad that he's been mostly retired. But the Draziri are devious. They use a plant called the World Ender. No matter what you do, you can't stop it. It just goes along whatever source it's put on until it pops out and sees life. Classified as like a living sentient being that's breathing, so viruses, bacteria don't count. And then once it finds them, it launches spores, and plants itself into them, and then grows and grows and grows until it takes over the entire planet and destroys it. It's a very, very dangerous thing that the Draziri have unleashed. Luckily, coincidentally, you have to just learn to accept these and roll with them if you're going to enjoy any of these books, because they're in all the urban fantasy books you're going to read. But Arland is actually kind of poisonous to the World Ender plant because he was inoculated as a young vampire, something that all of the House Crawher go through. And so he has to get the plant to attack him, and then get to the main plant, bite it, and put some of his blood in it, and then it kills it. So he does. He's severely wounded, of course. And then this is one of the craziest things that the Draziri had, which I keep wondering how they keep getting all this stuff, because they're supposed to be kind of like nobody really likes them because they're so genocidal against the Hiru, but they have a seed, the seed of an inn, which is like the start of the inn, like Gertrude Hunt. And Dina is, of course, mesmerized by it because they're so rare, and she wants to try and rescue it, but they've attached it to this young Draziri girl, and they are trying to force her for the trade, and she'll give him the seed. Unfortunately, she won't accept that. She won't give up her guests, and so they kind of set off like a little bomb, and unfortunately, she has to take the inn seed through that portal to the barren world where it dies. And if she hadn't, then Gertrude, the inn, would have felt that inn's death, and Gertrude would have also died. And just kind of crazy. And so because Dina was bonded to the new inn, the baby inn, trying to keep it alive when it died, she's also kind of gone through this death. And so she's in like a haze for a time. Nothing can get through to her. She can't feel pain. She can't feel joy or see color kind of thing. And I thought that is a very spot-on depiction of some types of grief, not grief, where no matter how much you want to do something or how much you feel like you want to do something, you just feel like you're in this gray, I can't do anything stage. And maybe it was a little more literal for her that she actually couldn't do anything, but that is kind of a real thing. And I thought it was portrayed very well, that it was the amalgamation of a bunch of small acts of kindness and Sean's dedication to her, that he's not going to let her go, he's not going to forget her, he's going to work with her and get her through this, and he'll always be there, and everybody kind of showing her the love, even when they have to, completely take care of her because she can't do anything or move at all. That is what helps her eventually break through. And, in this final climactic battle where the Draziri are storming en masse, the corruption has broken free and is trying to kind of take over and corrupt somebody. We learn that Tony, the other innkeeper's son, Mr. Rodriguez, is an adhal, who basically means he's like a power figure of the Innkeepers Council. He's got a ton of power. He can do a lot of very cool, powerful things, and he actually takes the leader of the Draziri and locks him on a world where the sun is like literally dying before your eyes because of, innkeeper magic. And he's going to leave him there for 30 years until he calms down and figures it out. And, if he goes crazy before then he'll go and end it. So that was pretty crazy, this final battle. They're able to stop it. They're able to save the Archivarius. And the Hiru ask where their planet is, where can they go to be free and to be safe. And they show them a planet, and the Hiru are able to go through. And we learn that, and I'd kind of predicted this just a little bit, that the Hiru were spacefarers, obviously, and they had visited the planet of the Draziri beforehand, and then been seen, and the Draziri had kept these legends and these myths of these beings that they saw, and they had turned into their gods of their religion. And so when the Draziri achieved spaceflight and flew to the closest planet and saw the Hiru, that they were exactly like their gods, they freaked out and destroyed the Hiru because it would have destroyed their entire civilization to know the truth. Doesn't excuse what they did. Not one bit. Should have had a little bit more, faith or whatever, but that's what happened. And so they go to this world, and then Dina gets to ask her one question, and she is cycling through a couple variations of how to find her parents. Where are my parents? How can I find my parents? And then I don't remember the exact phrasing, but she asks, how can I find my parents, or who can help me find my parents, or who can tell me where my parents are? And the Archivarius says, ask, or find Sebastian North, or it's Sebastian North is her answer. And we're like, Sebastian North? We haven't seen any Sebastians in this book. Who's he? And then the Archivarius disappears and leaves, and we kind of learn that George had been working behind the scenes. He's the one who sent the Hiru to her lodge. He's the one who helped Maud get a message off of that backwater vampire planet to her, and she, vows to give him free rent for life. But then, near the very end, the last chapter, the very last thing, we find out that the cat that she picked up from the PetSmart, basically, has a collar and the initials SN on it, which could potentially stand for Sebastian North. I don't know. I'm pretty excited for when the next book comes out. I don't think I'll be reviewing the fourth book, which is a story about Maud. Maybe I will. I'm going to read it and then decide first. But that's going to wrap up my discussion of One Fell Sweep by Alona Andrews. Thanks everybody for listening, and thanks to David Hillowitz for the intro and outro music. If you have any questions or comments, angry remarks, you can send those to libromancypod@gmail.com. I've put up a calendar on the website at libromancy.podbean.com showing what books are coming up next. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. That really helps other people find us and help spread the word. And remember to brush the magic of books.